Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
I'm husband.
And I'm wife.
Together, we're reading the Bible for the very first time.
We grew up without religion and wanted to know what all the fuss was about.
Well, what have we learned so far?
That God is a dick, and apparently some people believe in talking donkeys?
We're not trying to pass ourselves off as experts.
Nope, we're just reading the Bible for the first time and giving our first take reaction.
If you'd like to join us in this venture, you might consider starting at episode 1.
Otherwise, jump in wherever you like.
All right, let's go read the Bible.
Yeah, let's get to it. Husband!
Wife!
Do you know what we're reading today and how we got here and what happened?
Well, we are in the midst of reading Isaiah, and we just finished off a week last week, and I know so far Isaiah is going over a lot of prophecies about the destruction of Israel. We had a song that got sung at one point, and I don't agree with Isaiah a lot because he's kind of a dick, and God's a dick, and there's a lot of dickishness going on.
Right, yeah.
Is that generally the gist of what's gisting?
Pretty much, yeah. I think you got it.
Awesome. So I think we left off last week with Isaiah chapter 15.
Sure as fuck did.
And that means that today we're going to be getting into
Isaiah chapter 16.
Let's do this.
Okie dokie. All right, so Isaiah chapter 16 seems to be a continuation from 15, where he was going off on Moab.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So God was like, fuck Moab, fuck all them guys.
I mean,
right?
There's a lot of that going on. Yeah.
Yeah, but 15 was about
Yeah.
that Moab specifically.
Right.
So he's still like, blah, 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 Moab is going to get it.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm just letting you know, because it starts out with, send lambs as tribute to the ruler of the land, from Selah across the desert to the Mount of daughter Zion. So he's just like middle of this thought, right?
Sure.
Like fluttering birds pushed from the nest, so are the women of Moab at the fords of the Arnon. Make up your mind, Moab says. Render a decision. Make your shadow like night at high noon. Hide the fugitives. Do not betray the refugees. Let the Moabite fugitives stay with you. Be their shelter from the destroyer.
Wait, what?
I have no idea.
So God, who's the destroyer? The destroyer is God, isn't it?
I mean,
isn't that what I was understanding prior to that? And so now what? People are. Is it the Moabites that are sheltering people from God to try to keep him from destroying them? Or I'm really confused here. I thought God was being a dick and killing everybody.
That's what it seems like to me.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's still fucking with the Moabites, but I don't understand.
But I don't understand who's sheltering who and why they're sheltering them exactly.
Yeah,
and like somebody's pushing women from nests and trees and killing them. So something's not good.
Something is not good, and the Moabites are getting it.
Right.
In a bad way.
I'm gathering that bit.
But I don't know who's speaking to whom.
Right.
Okay.
It's confusing.
It is. The oppressor will come to an end, and destruction will cease.
Okay.
The aggressor will vanish from the land.
Okay.
In love, a throne will be established. In faithfulness, a man will sit on it. One from the house of David. One who in judging seeks justice and speeds the cause of righteousness.
Got it. And this is who they think Jesus is, probably.
This is who Christians think
Jesus is, yeah.
Right, but Jewish people are like, but no, it's not though.
Right, because we were just talking about killing Moabites. Now people, like, I don't understand how Christians get from Moabites to Jesus.
Because they're saying that a man is gonna.
No, I get.
There's gonna be a throne.
I understand that, but like they're talking about immediate things, and then it transitions to some person from David's line that's going to sit on the throne,
right?
Which most people, if you weren't thousands of years past this already, would interpret as soon,
Yeah.
You
But
know,
they're like,
like that's
sometimes we're talking about today, sometimes we're talking about tomorrow, and sometimes we're talking about in 1,000 years. And it could all be in the same sentence, and it just depends on what we want it to mean.
it just seems to me like Christians got past the uncomfortable point of this isn't about the immediate. And they're like, I don't know who they'd be talking about other than, well, Jesus, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like they got past
Mhm.
there's nobody else that they could point to. So they're like, well, Jesus, that's Jesus.
Mhm.
Because we have to make it make this is the shit that I hate. They have to make it make sense.
Mhm.
Why do we have to have it make sense? It's a goddamn prophecy. What if it's just fucking wrong?
Or what if the prophecy wasn't about Jesus?
Yeah. But I mean, but seriously, but why does it have to be right?
Sure.
It doesn't. There's nothing that says a prophecy has to be right. In fact, I would say most prophecies are by nature wrong.
You're not wrong. We have heard of Moab's pride. How great is her arrogance, of her conceit, her pride, and her insolence. But her boasts are empty.
Okay.
So now
we're back to the Moabites after. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, this lends to the immediacy of the prophecy.
Right.
Not
the 1,000-year later Jesus-y guy.
Right.
No, I agree. Therefore the Moabites wail. They wail together for Moab. Lament and grieve for the raisin cakes of Kir Hareseth.
I'll take some raisin cakes.
Anybody
Anybody have a good recipe for some raisin cakes?
I
wonder what a raisin cake is. We should do like a Bible cooking show.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Because honestly, it's got to be pretty famous food here if they're lamenting and grieving for it.
Yeah.
Like somebody was making some good shit. It made it into the Bible.
Yeah, I like some raisins,
I like raisins and I like cake.
Right.
I like carrot cake.
I'm curious.
Why wouldn't I like raisin cake?
I would try some raisin cake.
Especially if people were lamenting and grieving for it.
Right, yeah.
Like, ooh.
This must be some good raisin cake.
Mm-hmm. The fields of Heshbon wither, the vines of Sibmah also. The rulers of the nations have trampled down the choicest vines, which once reached Jazer and spread toward the desert. Damn.
I see.
Their shoots spread out and went as far as the sea.
I guess that's a wow. I don't really know.
From the desert to
the desert to the sea.
Mm-hmm. From the desert to the sea.
I see.
That's a long way.
I see that. Yeah.
You see.
I see the sea.
Mm-hmm. So I weep as Jazer weeps for the vines of Sibmah. Heshbon and Elialah, I drench you with tears. That's what happened to Alice.
Is it?
In Wonderland, she cried so many tears.
Okay.
That everybody was drowning in them.
Oh, when she was big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The shouts of joy over your ripened fruit and over your harvest have been stilled. Well, yeah, because you've been crying.
Right.
You stopped cheering and then you started crying.
There was the Israelites or God or somebody was trampling all over them too. So
get those vines.
Right.
Tear them up. Joy and gladness are taken away from the orchard. No one sings or shouts in the vineyards. No one treads out wine at the presses, for I have put an end to the shouting. I being God, I'm assuming. I have no idea. Because Isaiah is still prophesying, I'm assuming here. I think so. With regard to speaking for God. Right, I think so, because he's saying, I have put an end to the shouting, and then goes on to say, my heart laments for Moab. I did a meanness to you, and my heart laments for it that I did that. What a magnanimous thing to say. What? My heart laments for Moab like a harp, my inmost being for Kir Hareseth. When Moab appears at her high place, she only wears herself out. When she goes to her shrine to pray, it is to no avail. This is the word the Lord has already spoken concerning Moab. But now the Lord says, quote, within 3 years, as a servant bound by contract would count them, Moab's splendor and all her many people will be despised, and her survivors will be very few and feeble. The end. So, okay. So it sounds like we're enslaving the Moabites and ruining their land. Ruining them completely. Mm-hmm. But we also lament for them? Sure. And maybe
I guess God limit, but
It's the way a parent laments when they spank their child.
This doesn't sound like any parental anything. This sounds like a murderous asshole on a goddamn killing spree. And then he's like, oh, by the way, yeah, I also care about you. So whatever.
Yeah. I'm
Moving
so
along.
sad about your wine presses being dried up.
Also, your gods suck, just so you know.
Yeah.
You know, like.
If they were so great, why didn't they stop me?
Yeah.
Womp womp.
You're all dead or enslaved now, so.
They're like, he's like, sucks to suck.
But I lament for you anyway. Yeah. So it's all good.
Sucks to suck, and sorry for you.
Yeah. What a shitty
deity.
Yeah.
I'm powerful. Fuck off.
You know what? This is shitty treatment of human beings. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no need to create such a horrible environment for other tribes, even if you're killing them, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're at war with another tribe, this is beyond treating them badly.
Right.
This is beyond conquering them. This is decimating them.
You could just do the snapping, like what happened in Marvel.
You could just occupy their land and let most of them live if they throw down their arms.
But if you have to kill them or get rid of them, because maybe there's too many, you could just snap them out of existence. You don't have to cause...
Well, God could, hypothetically.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If you really want your people to have that land so much, you could make it to where the people don't physically suffer.
Right. So why do we have to do all this physical suffering?
I don't know.
And why do your godly people who are fighting apparently for you, why would they have to die in order to kill other people for you?
The whole thing is just murdery, doesn't make any sense. Bloody, human, gross.
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't make any sense.
No. And you know what? I get tired of the whole, well, you just don't understand the bigger picture. And I'm like, no, I see the big picture just fine. That's what this book is about. This book is about the big picture.
Right. Well, they'll say you're choosing not to see
the
message. And I'm like...
You're choosing also not to see the message.
Right?
So,
yeah.
You know?
No,
I get to be right in my eyes. You get to be right in your eyes. And we can walk away and not punch each other.
And I have no problem saying, because like at the end of every week or when we were doing Psalms and everything like that, we were going in every day. We are taking into account for apologist viewpoints and scholarly viewpoints, and we're trying to go back and look at what we just read to try to understand it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And it still makes no fucking sense.
No, and
I mean, not in any real matter. Like there are people that are trying to make sense of it, that are trying to give it a message, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah, it's just trash, and I'm not gonna grant it any more room in my brain. I'm just not.
Right.
It's trash. God is a dick, and the Bible is dumb, and these people were prehistoric, and anybody who raises them up as anything more is just simple and silly.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right.
That's the way it
needs to be relegated to a history book. Mm-hmm. A book that was from history. Yeah. That we can use as such to understand that culture better, mm-hmm. but it has no real bearing on today.
No.
So, but that was Isaiah chapter 16.
Sure as fuck was.
And we will be back tomorrow with
Isaiah chapter 17.
We'll see you guys then.
Bye. Husband.
Wife.
Do you know where we are, what's happening, what's going on?
Well, we just got done reading chapter 16 of Isaiah yesterday.
We did.
And I believe we were still going on about punishing Moabites and being shitty to them and fucking them over and general crappiness towards the Moabites. Is that about the gist of it?
I think so. I think they're doing pretty good at the moment, but they shouldn't get too uppity because...
Something like that, yeah.
Isaiah says God's going to give them the smackdown or
right.
something.
We're going to decimate them or something. Or they're going to hate life or something. I don't know. It's not going to be good, whatever it is.
It wasn't perfectly clear why exactly, other than
right.
You didn't choose me.
God doesn't like the Moabites.
Right.
That's my impression. At least Isaiah doesn't like the Moabites. And he says that God doesn't like the Moabites.
Right.
One of those things is true.
Right.
Maybe.
Because prophet.
But also maybe true. It's only maybe true because I don't really know how much I trust anything that I read in this fucking book.
Well, not only that, but you were showing me a video about a prophet today. And
some of these modern prophets are really fucking crazy.
They're funny. They give secondhand cringe, man. It's real.
They're dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
they're dangerous and they're dangerous and they're scary.
Yes.
And they're only funny insofar as they're dumb, but
yeah. And embarrassing. Like I was embarrassed for the guy that you were making me listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really fucking bad.
Oof.
I'll try to find a link to one of his things because it's something I've come across multiple times with this guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he's just really, really bad.
He's not okay.
I don't even know his name, but it's just, I cringe every time I see something by him. So right. I'll try to find a link and put it in the show notes.
Do it.
All right. So yesterday we did Isaiah chapter 16.
Sure as fuck did.
Which means that today we're going to be doing
Isaiah chapter 17.
You ready to get into this?
I am.
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. Okay, so Isaiah chapter 17.
Yes.
Here we go.
We're
off to the races.
Are we off to the races?
A prophecy against Damascus.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing Damascus now.
If I'm in Damascus, I'm worried.
You should be because they're about to go down. Okay?
Okay.
See, that's how it starts. See, Damascus will no longer be a city, but will become a heap of ruins.
No, it's terrible. But the way you read it was fantastic.
Right? Like,
yeah, no,
I would like that on a shirt. See, Damascus will no longer be a city, but will become a heap of ruins.
What a terrible thing to say.
In the Bible, right?
Yeah.
See.
It's not cool, man.
The cities of Aror will be deserted and left to flocks, okay? Which will lie down with no one to make them afraid.
Okay. So wait. Okay. So flocks of seagulls? Flocks of
geese.
What? Yeah.
No.
What are these flocks of exactly?
I don't know, but they are going to
But they're not going to be,
down.
whatever they are, they're not going to be scared.
They are not scared and they are going to lie down.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
The fortified city will disappear from Ephraim.
Poof.
And royal power from Damascus. The remnant of Aram will be like the glory of the Israelites, declares the Lord Almighty.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
You got all that?
I got it.
Okay. In that day, the glory of Jacob will fade.
Okay.
The fat of his body will waste away.
Jacob, we're alluding to Israel here, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
The fat of his body is going to waste away.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
It will be as when reapers harvest the standing grain, gathering the grain in their arms, as when someone gleans heads of grain in the valley of Rephaim.
I'm not familiar with what happens in the valley of Rephaim.
Well, apparently when someone gleans heads of grain, they stand up and take the standing ones and they hug that grain to them in their arms. Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And when that happens,
it's bad apparently.
I guess.
I would think though that harvesting grain is a good thing.
I would think that too.
So I'm having trouble with this comparison here.
Yeah, I don't know.
But maybe they're talking about they got to cut down the grain, so maybe they're cutting down Israel.
Okay, but it goes on.
Okay.
Yet some gleanings will remain, as when an olive tree is beaten.
Yes.
Beaten. You know how you beat olive trees?
Not really, no. But, but I mean, I can imagine, I guess if there's a bunch of olives and you beat it, maybe they fall off.
Yes,
so, I guess that's what happens.
That's how they gather the olives.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
They beat the olive trees.
I want to go visit olive tree beating season.
Me too.
That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leaving 2 or 3 olives on the topmost branches.
God damn it.
4 or 5 on the fruitful boughs.
I see.
Declares the Lord, the God of Israel.
Okay.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
In that day,
In that day.
you know that
the one
day.
where the olives get beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And the harvesty, gleaning.
Yeah, the grain gets cut and carried.
Yeah.
Okay.
In that day, people will look to their maker, capital M.
Yes.
And turn their eyes to the Holy One of Israel. They will not look to the altars, the work of their hands, and they will have no regard for the Asherah poles and the incense altars their fingers have made.
Okay, so something's going to happen that's really bad, and there'll be 3 olives left on the top of the tree and 5 on the lower branches.
The flowering boughs.
And the grain will be carried in people's arms, and then the Israelites will give up Asherah poles.
Yes.
Is that what I'm to understand here?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Is that about the gist of it?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
In that day.
Yes, in that day.
Their strong cities, which they left because of the Israelites, will be like places abandoned to thickets and undergrowth.
Okay.
But it seems like
are we destroying the Israelites, or are we destroying somebody else?
All will be desolation.
Okay, all
will be desolation.
Okay.
Now I don't really know because it sounded like things were going good.
Right.
But
they're bad apparently.
They're bad.
And Damascus. I don't. Okay. I'm a little lost in this chapter, I gotta admit. I'm having some trouble here.
I don't really understand because if they're doing good.
Who's doing good?
I don't know. Damascus.
But isn't Damascus like not part of Israel, right?
Right.
So it okay.
But it sounded like they were doing right.
And then olives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go on, please.
You have forgotten God, your Savior.
I have forgotten what the fuck we're talking about.
Well, the thing is, if they were giving up Asherah poles, that sounds like they were doing a good thing by God, right? They're like,
Right, but I think they're saying that in that day, when God makes only some of them alive anymore because he's shaking the olive tree and cutting them down and shit like that. In that day.
This is an analogy.
Well, yeah,
it's not real
They're
grain.
trying real fucking hard here. Like they're
it's not
really
real olives and it's not real grain.
Obviously.
I didn't get that. I didn't. So he's killing a lot of them and only leaving a few behind.
We're talking about murder still.
Okay.
I mean, this is God after all.
I forgot about the murder.
Yeah, and so once they're all murdered, good and stuff, and dead, then those few olives that are left, the Israelites,
got it.
They're going to be like, hey, these Asherah poles, we should maybe not worship them anymore. Maybe.
Remember how we're the only few still alive? And we were doing bad things.
Yeah, let's stop doing that.
We should not do the bad anymore.
And we should look at that guy over there with our eyes that we're not supposed to be able to look at, the God guy.
The God guy.
And we should turn our eyes to him.
Yes.
That's what it said. We're going to turn our eyes to him.
Yes.
We're going to turn our eyes to the guy that we can't see.
I didn't know that, like, the people were the olives.
The people are the olives.
I didn't get that at first. I'm so sorry. I'm a little thick. Sometimes I just need help. But that's why we read this together. Okay.
Yeah.
You have forgotten God, your Savior. You have not remembered the rock, your fortress.
You mean the one that Moses beat, that water spurted out of?
I have no idea, but it's a capital R.
You remember that, right?
I do.
You beat a rock and water comes out.
Yep.
That's a real thing.
That happened in the
Bible.
Bible.
Didn't actually happen, but it said that it happened.
Right. I mean, they fought giants too, though.
Right.
So whatever. Therefore, though you set out the finest plants and plant imported vines, so you're bringing in immigrants, remember, as slaves and stuff?
Okay.
So, though you set out the finest plants and you plant imported vines, so you bring in people from
Are you sure is this still a
that's what I think.
Okay.
Though on the day you set them out, you make them grow, and on the morning when you plant them, you bring them to bud, yet the harvest will be as nothing. in the day of disease and incurable pain.
See, I think they're actually talking about plants there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I think you got that one backwards a little bit.
Oh god damn it!
So yeah, they're saying
people?
Apparently
No.
now that wait, they're going to be of nothing though, right?
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
now that we've been decimated by God, apparently,
right?
Somebody's been decimated.
The olives and the people.
The olives and the grains have been decimated,
and the people
that are people also.
Yes.
They've been decimated.
Okay.
And then they're gonna try to plant their vines that they imported. Apparently, that's a lot of work to import those vines. They plant those imported vines, and they become nothing.
It's still gonna be disease and incurable pain.
You get killed a lot, and then you get screwed over by God because your shit won't grow still.
Right.
I guess maybe.
But since you know this is coming, don't you just not waste your time then?
But they don't know it's coming. Well, I guess Isaiah's prophesizing it.
That's what I'm saying.
So technically, I guess they do know it's coming, right?
Yeah.
If you listen to Isaiah.
But there's probably a lot of prophets walking around saying shit, as we've discussed. So how do you fucking know?
Based on the way Isaiah is saying this shit, I don't know that a lot of people got it.
I didn't.
It's very confusing. Right?
I didn't get it.
I thought dude was talking about fucking olives, man.
Right? Like
what's going on here?
1 second he's talking about olives, but they're people. The next second he's talking about fucking grapevines that are actually grapevines.
Yeah.
Like, what?
How am I supposed to keep track of this shit?
I don't know.
Maybe just say what you're going to say, man.
Yeah, we don't always need the parables, goddammit. Woe to the many nations that rage. They rage like the raging seas.
Okay.
The Raging Cajun?
Sure.
Isn't that a thing?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Raging Cajun.
That sounds like a wrestler or something.
Or a type of chips or something.
Probably.
Raging Cajun.
I'm sure Lay's has a Raging Cajun something or something.
I have heard that somewhere, but I don't know where and I don't know what it is or why.
Right.
Okay, the Raging Cajun. Anyway, woe to the peoples who roar. They roar like the roaring of great waters. Those roaring roarers and those raging ragers.
Yeah. All right.
Although the peoples roar like the roar of surging waters, when he rebukes them, they flee far away. Driven before the wind, like chaff on the hills, like tumbleweed before a gale.
So these people were yelling at God, apparently?
They were like, God damn it, this sucks!
And then God shook the olive tree and they all ran
like,
away.
Oh, fuck. and then they ran. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. In the evening, sudden terror!
Okay.
Exclamation point.
Yeah.
Yikes!
Okay.
And before the morning, they are gone! Exclamation point.
Oh.
Or zowie!
I'm still having trouble tracking what's going on here.
Before the morning, they are gone! Exclamation point. This is the portion of those who loot us, the lot of those who plunder us. The end.
Oh, okay.
What?
I'm very confused after this chapter.
I did not really get all of that.
I know that some people are not doing well after it. I know that some people died.
Apparently Damascus is going to do good for a minute, but then they're going to get fucked.
Right, but I can't even determine whether he's killing people from Damascus or Israelites or both.
I think probably both.
Or looters now. I don't know. Maybe looters are the only thing he's killing. Whoa.
That's
man.
what I got. Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Mike Myers.
Yeah, Mike Myers.
Yeah, I know. From So I Married an Axe Murderer. Yeah. Excuse me, I think there's been a mistake. I ordered the large.
Right. Yeah,
that one.
Yep.
That's such a good movie.
It is.
We need to make the kid watch it.
Right. I think we have made them watch it at some point.
I don't think we did.
We did, because I know that they know the line, "Head, move."
No, they don't.
No?
Because we've quoted it and they always look at us like we're crazy.
Oh, okay.
And then we had to explain it, and they were like, what?
I could still watch that scene in that movie, and I will die laughing still.
It's funny.
It really is. It really is.
Pants! No! There's a piper down. It's such a good movie.
I mean, it's
If you think I'm sexy, and you want my body. It's good stuff.
Oh my god, we've gone off the rails here now.
Oh, well, I mean, So I Married an Axe Murderer is really good.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
And Yeah.
And it starts off with Sixpence None the Richer. There she goes. There she goes again.
All I remember is the cup of coffee.
I know.
Like, from the beginning.
Woman. Woman. Woman.
We're going to have to be careful here. We're getting into copyright infringement land.
I don't think that there is any way that we could be mistaken as
as trying to imitate that.
Not at all. Not at all.
So what are your thoughts on this chapter?
God's a dick.
I mean, that's usually our assessment on pretty much any chapter.
That and I love grapes.
Grapes are good. But apparently they won't grow if you're back then times. So, yeah, the way back when. The way back when. Yeah. But somehow they survived through the ages. That's some hardy grapes. It really must be. That's a hardy plant. It's probably because they feared God. Some of them feared God and they lived.
The grapes feared God?
The grapes and the olives feared God.
Huh.
Yeah.
Imagine.
That's why we have grapes and olives today, people.
You should.
That's how that came to be.
You should also fear the Lord.
That's what I got.
Moving on.
All right. So anyway, now that we're just being
bullshitting,
that was Isaiah chapter 17.
Sure as fuck was.
And we will be back tomorrow with
more grapes and Isaiah chapter 18.
All right. We'll see you guys then.
Bye. Husband.
Wife.
Do you remember where the fuck we're at in this book called the Bible?
Well, we were discussing olive people last time.
Olive people and grape heads.
And grapes and vines and all kinds of stuff like that, it seems like.
Good stuff.
That was, alluding to other things, I guess.
But because it was an allegory.
Right.
But I didn't know that at first because I'm thick.
So I think yesterday we read Isaiah chapter 17.
That is correct.
Which means that today we'll be reading
Isaiah chapter 18.
Let's do this.
Okie dokie. All right, Isaiah chapter 18.
Okay.
And in this chapter, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between and more, and on all the other ones too, we are moving into the African continent for this episode.
Okay.
Okay? Because we're going to talk about Ethiopia now. Okay?
All right.
I was being a flight attendant.
Yeah.
I was directing your attention out the window.
Got it. And I was telling you to raise your voice because when you talk like that, the sound thing can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everybody. I don't know things. Okay, so anyway, we're flying to Ethiopia now.
Okay, we're flying. Is this first class? Coach?
I mean, if I'm flying anywhere, it's
Wright
going to
Brothers
be...
biplane?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. No, not a biplane. What? No. I want to go first class. I've never been first class. Okay, anyway, woe to the land of whirring wings.
Worrying wings?
Whirring wings.
Whirring. Okay, as in like they whir.
Whir.
I got it. Okay.
Whirring.
Land of whirring wings. Wow.
Along the rivers of Cush.
Okay.
Whirring wings. Remember the other day you were asking me what is alliteration? That is alliteration.
Got it.
Whirring wings.
Yeah.
Which sends envoys by sea in papyrus boats over the water. That's kind of poetic. Woe to the land of whirring wings along the rivers of Cush, which sends envoys by sea in papyrus boats over the water.
Yeah.
Go, swift messengers, to a people tall and smooth-skinned, to a people feared far and wide, an aggressive nation of strange speech, whose land is divided by rivers.
What? Okay.
I don't like the way this is
They're
going.
sending a messenger to this aggressive nation with whirring wings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tall, thin people.
All right. I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding here.
Which
is Ethiopia, right?
That's what it said
Not
at the top.
Not Egypt.
Right. Ethiopia.
Okay.
Yeah. All you people of the world, you who live on the earth, when a banner is raised on the mountains, you will see it, Because I'm not actually talking to the whole world. I'm just talking to this continent.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking to this whole continent. I'm just talking to this half of it.
And
I'm not even talking about this half of the continent. I'm just talking about this part of this half of the continent.
And really, you can only see that banner if it's not a really tall mountain. Because if it was a really tall mountain, you really wouldn't be able to see that.
Even from the foot of it, much less like traveling out afar.
So it's got to be a very specific set of circumstances here.
Right. Like we're talking about a petri dish.
Right.
And then they're trying to call it a globe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, actually, flat earthers had this part right. Like because they just occupied a very small plate of land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could just pick up the plate of them and it like that is all they were.
Just to clarify real quick, flat earthers have nothing correct.
Right. No.
Just I want to make sure that is not even like remotely something that we
no flat earth. Okay. No. I just meant it's funny that like they deny that there's a whole globe, and at one point it was the other way where people were swearing that this one small portion was the whole globe.
Right, okay.
That's what I meant. Like just how the belief of what is happening.
I just wanted to make sure you clarified that point.
Sorry.
That's all. So
in my head it was brilliant because it was a switch in belief systems over the ages.
Yeah.
And it was just a finely tuned point.
Okay. All right.
But I clearly did not communicate it
not
very
well enough.
No. Apologies. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I am not a flat earther. I do not endorse and I don't wish to espouse those silly, nonsensical beliefs.
Right.
Okay. So, all you people of the world, you who live on the earth, when a banner is raised on the mountains, you will see it. And when a trumpet sounds, you will hear it. I don't think that's true.
No.
This is what the Lord says to me. Ready?
Yeah.
I will remain quiet and will look on from my dwelling place, like shimmering heat in the sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest.
Okay.
That's what he says to.
So he's like an oasis or a cloud of dew.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For before the harvest, he's done talking. That was the end of the quote.
Yeah, sure.
For before the harvest, when the blossom is gone and the flower becomes a ripening grape, he will cut off the shoots with pruning knives and cut down and take away the spreading branches. Okay, just to be clear, are we talking about real branches or are we talking about analogy branches?
I think we're discussing people again, maybe, or groups of people.
Analogy people plants.
I believe.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, I don't want to miss out on the olive people again.
I think, but this time it's maybe another type of fruit or vegetable that they're the different type of people now.
Okay.
These might be the corn people. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they will all be left to the mountain birds of prey and to the wild animals. The birds will feed on them all summer, the wild animals all winter. At that time, gifts will be brought to the Lord Almighty from a people tall and smooth-skinned, from a people feared far and wide, an aggressive nation of strange speech, whose land is divided by rivers. The gifts will be brought to Mount Zion, the place of the name of the Lord Almighty. The end.
So it sounds to me like maybe the Israelites and or God, according to the Bible anyway.
Sure.
Killed some Ethiopians maybe.
Okay.
And then they wanted to make peace with them, so they brought gifts to God and I don't know. I am very
feel right.
Right, but I'm very confused over this chapter. So like I'm not really sure what they're going on about here.
Well,
to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so the people are bringing the gifts to Mount Zion. So it's not the Israelites bringing gifts to the Ethiopians.
That's what I was not saying that at all.
Okay, well,
no.
You had pronoun abuse because you said they and they.
Sorry, no, the Ethiopians were bringing gifts to
the
God,
Israelites.
Which would be in Israel. Yes.
Okay. But even still, like, I don't know about all that.
No? How do you interpret what we just read?
I mean, yeah, that makes the most sense. It just seems like, but would they do that?
Well, if you were being killed,
okay,
and the
fair.
alternative was to bring shit to somebody else over in some other place, wouldn't you do that? Like, hey, if I bring you gold and animals to slaughter, will you stop killing me?
Will you lay off?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a couple who breaks up and then like they exchange boxes of CDs and sweaters and shit like that, and then they're like, "Here's your shit."
Right.
And then they fight over who gets to keep what friends, except that this isn't high school and one is massacring the other.
Correct. Yes.
So not a good analogy at all, really.
I'm going to be very curious to get to the end of this week and find out what the fuck we've been reading about exactly. Because, I mean, I am very not sure about what all this means.
I know that they're prophecies. I know that they're Isaiah's prophecies.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying.
I was told that is the only reason I know that.
We know that bit. But
right. But I don't really fully understand what the prophecies mean.
Right. And the prophecies are very vague about what they're discussing.
Which is really funny because we were just watching an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And they were talking about a prophecy and it came true.
Yeah.
And Cisco is the emissary. And and the three Vipers came and they thought it was the three Cardassians, but it wasn't.
No.
It was the
three asteroids.
The three it was the one comet, which was the sword of the sky or something like that. Mm-hmm. The sword of stars. And then when they tried to stop it, it broke into three pieces, and those were the three Vipers.
Yes.
And they had to like make sure that they got them through the wormhole okay, or it was going to collapse the wormhole forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that opened things up, and it turned out, yay, everything was good, and the prophecy came true.
Got it.
So there you have it.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right. So, sorry. I'm just like, that was so irrelevant to so many people right now. I'm just like, I was like completely zoned out. I'm like,
I know you were zoned out.
Oh my God. We're discussing one episode in a 20-year-old, franchise.
Okay. I hear what you're saying and fair point, but hear me out. It was relevant to something that's happening in my life right now. They're talking about prophecies.
Yeah, no, I know.
Guess what? I was watching a show today that was about a prophecy.
But if somebody tries to keep up with you and all of your references to all the pop culture shit that you mentioned, it's not even pop culture. It's like ancient pop culture.
I'm ancient. Why wouldn't my pop culture references also be ancient?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying they have to do some deep Googling is all I'm getting at.
Okay.
Like you're forcing people to go down these rabbit holes with
again
with 80s and 90s,
Again, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like the majority of our listeners are Gen X.
But I bet
or older.
Most of them still don't know the exact episode we're talking about.
No, they don't. But I mean, not as a whole. But like, there's always one or two people.
So you're playing to the one or two person crowd.
Yes.
And not to the everybody crowd.
Okay, as somebody in Discord pointed out several weeks ago, thank you for this, Bretty. Wife speaks to an audience of one.
No shit.
Yes. I am my own audience. I entertain myself. I enjoy talking about things and making connections and trying to understand. And if I can't understand, I enjoy making fun.
Okay.
Or being confused and admitting I'm really fucking confused. I don't get this shit.
Right.
And I'd much rather talk about Star Trek than the Bible any goddamn day. And I'm betting that a lot of atheists feel the same way. So on that note.
Yes. So that was Isaiah chapter 18.
Sure as fuck was.
Which means that tomorrow we will be back with
Isaiah chapter 19.
We'll see you guys then.
Okie dokie. Husband.
Wife.
So you have said that this is confusing. So if I ask you, do you remember where the hell we are? Is that question even useful?
I think we are somewhere confusing.
Okay.
So, we just read Isaiah chapter 18.
Sure as fuck did.
And they were talking about Egypt and Ethiopia or whatever. Yeah, no, it was Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And shit was going wrong there, maybe. And who knows? And there was lots of comparisons to all kinds of shit that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So
also, the descriptions of the people it made me very uncomfortable.
Right. And I'm looking forward to our Q&A this week because I need to know some things.
Yeah, I think that our Q&A this Saturday will probably be less a Q and more just summaries of these chapters explaining what the fuck happened.
Right. Yeah, because it's very confusing.
Yeah.
So that being said, we did chapter 18 last time. We will be getting into what today?
Isaiah chapter 19.
All right, let's go do this.
Okie dokie. All right, so Isaiah, confusing as fuck, chapter 19.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Ready for this?
We don't know that this one's going to be confusing. Maybe this one's going to be clear as fuck.
Isaiah has been confusing as fuck. That's what I meant.
I'm just saying.
This one might be clear. You're right. But it starts out, a prophecy against Egypt. So
now we're on Egypt.
I'm not holding my breath is all I'm saying.
Okay.
And it starts off with my favorite word. See? Here we go. Ready?
I'm ready.
See, the Lord rides on a swift cloud and is coming to Egypt.
Ooh, he rides on a cloud now, huh?
A swift one.
A swift one. Got it.
He's a Swiftie. Okay. The idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear.
Wait. I thought idols were just like pieces of stone and metal.
No, they're
real trembling
gods.
Before him, though?
They're real gods.
So
they're just not as big as he is.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we've said before that other gods exist in this Bible.
All right.
They're just not as powerful as all.
I guess.
When they say he's the one true God, what they mean is he's bigger than all the other ones.
He's expanding. Even though he created the entire universe,
he
needs to expand his franchise here on Earth, apparently.
Yeah.
He's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, he invented everything except that so did some of the others, but I'm not sure what they invented. So I don't know who invented what, but he's trying to take claim for inventing everything. And
right.
I don't think he did.
No, I don't either.
Okay, we got some quote marks here now.
Yeah.
I will stir up Egyptian against Egyptian. That sounds fun.
That sounds mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brother will fight against brother. Neighbor against neighbor. City against city. Kingdom against kingdom. The Egyptians will lose heart. Yeah, and I will bring their plans to nothing. They will consult the idols and the spirits of the dead, the mediums and the spiritists. I will hand the Egyptians over to the power of a cruel master, and a fierce king will rule over them.
That's mean.
Yeah.
Why? Why are we doing this?
Because God's a dick.
Right.
Declares the Lord Almighty. Sorry, that was
right.
Yeah. The waters of the river will dry up, and the riverbed will be parched and dry. Love to drown people, but I also love to make them go through a solid drought.
Yeah, that's good times.
The canals will stink. The streams of Egypt will dwindle and dry up. The reeds and rushes will wither. Also, the plants along the Nile at the mouth of the river. Every sown field along the Nile will become parched, will blow away and be no more. The fishermen will groan and lament. All who cast hooks into the Nile.
Yeah.
Those who throw nets on the water will pine away. That happened in Moana.
Did it?
It did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in the beginning they were like, oh no, King, what's tribal leader guy? This is so sad because our coconuts are drying up. And Moana says, we'll just plant some new trees over there away from the bad groves. And they're like, this suits you. And then the fishers come and they're like, hey, the fishes are not here on this side of the island. And she says, okay, let's cast our nets on the other side. And they're like, we tried that. And she's like, okay, so what about side number 3? And they're like, no. And she's like, side number 4, I'm running out of sides. And they're like, no sides work. And so then she's like, how about if we go beyond the reef? And then her dad is like, fuck you for not listening. You're grounded. So then she instead gets a boat and goes anyway. But anyway, they ran out of fishes.
Okay.
Their shit dried out. She had to go beyond the reef.
Okay.
So these folk got to go beyond the reef.
I'm gathering that.
Or pray to the other god.
Right. Sure.
I mean, she had to go to a god too.
Yeah.
You know, she had to go to Maui.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was like, you're welcome. Yeah. Those who work with combed. I was trying to say combined, and then it was combed. No, it's combed.
Okay.
Those who work with combed flax will despair, but uncombed is fine.
Yeah.
The weavers of fine linen will lose hope. The workers in cloth will be dejected, and all the wage earners will be sick at heart.
This is God doing all this still, right?
Yeah, because God's mean. He's a mean butt.
Right.
The officials of Zoan are nothing but fools. The wise counselors of Pharaoh give senseless advice. How can you say to Pharaoh, I am one of the wise men, a disciple of the ancient kings? Where are your wise men now? Let them show you and make known what the Lord Almighty has planned against Egypt.
Why? I just don't understand why the quote-unquote Lord Almighty is planning destruction for all these neighboring countries. Why is he doing this all of a sudden?
Because they didn't choose him. And he's
it's bullshit.
I'll show you not to choose me.
Was there a part, and maybe I'm misremembering, but was there a part where they were going to go to war against Israel? Mm-hmm. There was?
He's using them as tools.
Yeah, that's right, because he was using them as tools to fight Israel, right?
Yeah. And now he's like, and while I'm at it, I'm going to fuck your shit up too.
Yeah, but it just all seems so pointless and unnecessary.
Because I'm like, I bet if you just like wrote down on your little fucking cloud and we're like, everybody just, praise me like you should, then they would.
If they could literally see you writing on your fast cloud,
your swift cloud,
they might actually believe in you. Mm-hmm. But no, you got to hide and then you got to kill people them. And whatever, make them suffer.
Yep. The officials of Zoan have become fools. The leaders of Memphis are dead. The cornerstones of her peoples have led Egypt astray. The Lord has poured into them a spirit of dizziness. They make Egypt stagger in all that she does, as a drunkard staggers around in his vomit.
Ooh, that's gross.
Nasty. There is nothing Egypt can do, head or tail, palm, branch, or reed. In that day, the Egyptians will become weaklings. They will shudder with fear at the uplifted hand that the Lord Almighty raises against them.
Okay.
And the land of Judah will bring terror to the Egyptians. Everyone to whom Judah is mentioned will be terrified because of what the Lord Almighty is planning against them. Mm. In that day, 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan and swear allegiance to the Lord Almighty.
Wow. So just like, they're just going to be like, we surrender to God.
We give up.
And we speak your language all of a sudden. Yeah. So.
Wow, Zowie.
But of Canaan.
Yeah.
Why are they speaking the language of Canaan?
I don't know.
I thought Canaan, wouldn't they be speaking Hebrew? Is Hebrew, or are they referring to Israel as Canaan? I'm a little bit confused here too, I guess, a little bit. I don't know either. I know that they conquered the Canaanites to take over the land that they currently occupy. Yeah. But do they refer to their own home as Canaan?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. All right.
I will have to get back to you.
There's another question, I guess. Yeah.
One of the cities, will be called the City of the Sun. In that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the heart of Egypt, and a monument to the Lord at its border. It will be a sign and witness to the Lord Almighty in the land of Egypt. When they cry out to the Lord because of their oppressors, he will send them a savior and defender, and he will rescue them.
Okay.
So the Lord will make himself known to the Egyptians, and in that day they will acknowledge the Lord. They will worship with sacrifices and grain offerings. They will make vows to the Lord and keep them. The Lord will strike Egypt with a plague.
Wait. Are they changing over to worshiping the Lord?
Yep.
Or is he killing them with a plague?
Oh, well, let me finish the sentence.
Okay.
The Lord will strike Egypt with a plague. He will strike them and heal them.
Why? Okay.
They
why?
will turn to the Lord and he will respond to their pleas and heal them.
Okay.
He's going to punish them.
Is this like him proving his power?
He's going to punish them with a plague. And then the ones that turn to him, he'll be like, you're unplagued. I unplague you.
Okay.
And you and you.
But
no,
they were
you
they were hypothetically already worshiping
Mhm.
him, and now he is giving them the plague so that he can prove that he's powerful.
Yeah.
This God is so weird.
He's
Like,
backwards.
why does he care? Shouldn't he just feel comfortable in his own shoes? Like, shouldn't he just feel comfortable in his own skin?
Right.
Like, I'm good. I'm powerful. I don't need to prove to you that I'm powerful.
But they didn't have things like mental health back in those days.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about security and alpha males and, self-confidence, not relying on what other people think of you. And if you're being
but
praised
you would think
or not.
an all perfect, all wonderful, all powerful God would know what the correct way to be mentally would be.
But that's because he didn't exist and because
Right.
men of those days invented him.
No,
And they invented him in their image and they were primitive and stupid. So their God is primitive and stupid.
Right. No, I get it. To
Me, that's the biggest proof that God was invented.
Right.
He's exactly not up on the most current mental health and therapeutic resources.
Right. You would think, yeah, a perfect God would know how to be perfect mentally. And
you're telling me that a perfect God doesn't know what's in the DSM-5? Question mark.
Well, this is where a Christian would start like arguing with you that stuff is not correct, and obviously God is the only correct answer here.
But I would never be caught in this conversation with them because I don't believe in God in the first place.
No.
And I'm not going to argue.
But in the context of our podcast, even we treat God as though we're trying to.
We're pretending for the sake of argument in canon.
Yeah,
it's a real thing in this story world.
Sure. So I'm just saying that in canon, someone would argue that God's way is the perfect way, obviously, and the DSM-5 is the incorrect way.
And I would say, well, I bet that you are a piece of shit human and you don't know things. And
right. Well, I mean, I think that goes without saying, obviously. But
No, you know what? I take that back. I would say, you know what? Maybe you're right. And as long as you and the people in your life are happy and you're not treating anyone badly, that's fine. You go ahead and think that. But the second that you start being a sexist piece of shit,
right,
and anti-LGBTQ and voting to take away women's autonomy and shit like that, then I don't give a fuck if you think that the DSM is bad or your God is good. It doesn't fucking matter because you're taking away the rights of people.
Well, and that's what I always argue. I'm like, it doesn't really matter whether your God is real or not. I definitely 100% don't believe that your God is real, right? Mm-hmm. The Christian God, or any God for that matter, does not exist, in my opinion. But if it were to exist, if we're pretending that your God exists,
he's weak.
He's a dick. He's a dick, and I don't want anything to do with them.
Alpha male, dickless piece of shit.
Right, and he's petty, and he's jealous, and I mean, he says he's jealous, for God's sake.
My name is jealous.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's saying he's all these shitty things. I don't want anything to do with that fucker.
Right.
I really don't.
Exactly. I agree with you. So in that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians will go to Egypt and the Egyptians to Assyria. You know, as highways do, they go both ways.
Yeah.
The Egyptians and Assyrians will worship together. In that day, Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. So it'll be those
this
three
is like
nations.
They're going to have like three big strongholds now: Egypt, Assyria, and Israel. Interesting.
Right?
They're talking about building empires here.
Yep.
Or at least religious empires.
Napoleon would like a word. The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, "Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance." The end.
It's very funny to me that they're talking about Egypt, because when you think of Egypt, what do you think of with regard to gods?
I think of their weird gods that are not
Hades
Christian.
and all the, Ra and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't think of Christianity as any part of Egyptian history,
No.
other
than in the beginning,
the Israelites leaving there.
Yeah.
You know,
when
like,
they, Moses said, "Set my people free," kind of thing, and the plagues and all of that.
Right, but the Bible is saying, and maybe they're what I don't know how much of this is actual history or if this is just like blowhard bullshit, right?
Right.
So I mean that is another question I might have from this chapter, is how much of this is historically true.
Like, did that at any time come to pass?
Right. So I am curious about that, but I definitely don't know the Egyptians for their Christianity.
No, I don't either.
So I guess we'll just have to find out about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Isaiah chapter 19.
Sure as fuck was.
And we will be back tomorrow with
Isaiah chapter 20.
We'll see you guys then.
Bye. Husband.
Wife.
Do you know where we are and what happened and the story so far?
Well, we are in Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. He just got done talking about the Egyptians and how they're going to get fucked over and stuff. And
Something
things
like
are going to go bad. And I'm really fucking confused.
Yeah. We're going to do some summaries on our Q&A Saturday.
Yeah. Like sometimes I don't really care about the Q&As sometimes, but this time I'm like really ready for the Q&A.
We have a week's worth of what the fuck did I just read?
Yeah, I feel bad. Like I'm listening to you read it, and I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what's going on.
And this is supposed to be the easy version. Yeah,
I mean, I get some of it, but like it's just there's a lot of really weird shit.
Yeah.
So I'm confused.
I am as well, dear.
All right. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone.
No, you're not.
So we just got done reading Isaiah chapter 19.
Sure as fuck did.
Which means that today we're going to be reading
Isaiah chapter 20.
Well, let's do it.
Okie dokie. All right, here we are getting into Isaiah chapter 20.
Okay.
In the year that the supreme commander sent by Sargon, king of Assyria.
Jesus, when did we get into fucking Lord of the Rings?
Right? Jeez, this is crazy. So when that guy that year came to Ashdod and attacked and captured it.
Okay. That year. Okay, I got it.
So that's the
year that we're talking about.
At that time, the Lord spoke through Isaiah, son of Amos.
Just at that time, though. Not the rest of the times.
That year.
That year, at that time, when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Lord spoke through Isaiah.
Well, I mean, we're on chapter 20, so they're like, hey, let us not forget these last 19 chapters, this is when they happened, okay? You got this, guys?
Are you sure this is the whole, this is all based on this one day, this one time?
No, not this one day, this one time period.
Okay, all right.
During this time period, all of this shit was taking place.
All right, if you say so. Okay.
I mean,
I feel like he's been talking to Isaiah for a long time, and they're just like they're wanting to really emphasize that that God dude was like talking to Isaiah right then and here at this point in time. They're like this bit's really important.
All the other ones weren't, but this one is.
You need to know God was talking through Isaiah right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
On this time at that place.
Right here, right now. Okay. He said to him.
Okay.
That's pronoun abuse, just so we know.
God said to Isaiah.
God said to Isaiah, take off the sackcloth from your body and the sandals from your feet.
So he's getting naked now?
Ooh, naked wild man. Here we go. And he did so. going around stripped and barefoot.
Is that what it says?
That is what
That's
it
what
says.
it says. Oh,
That's
okay.
what it says.
Okay. All right.
Then the Lord said, just as my servant Isaiah has gone stripped and barefoot for 3 years. What?
Dude walked around naked for 3 years?
What the fuck? That takes David's dance, like David's
a whole new
naked
level.
ding dong bouncing dance
Yeah.
that's nothing.
No.
That's nothing.
3 fucking years of nakedness.
I did not see that coming.
That is crazy.
I'm so sorry, but I'm quite taken aback.
What would happen today if somebody was like, God told me to be naked for 3 years?
3 years!
That person would not be on the streets. I can tell you that.
They would not.
No.
That prophet would be locked the fuck up.
Yes.
And not naked. Like opposite of naked. Unless they manage to escape to a nudist colony right quick.
There you go. Yeah.
That would be acceptable.
Maybe Isaiah is prophesying on a nudist colony.
Okay.
Or maybe just everybody's crazy back then and they're just like, there's that naked dude.
There goes some more. Yeah, you know how prophets be.
We should totally listen to naked dude because God's talking to him today.
I mean,
I heard he's talking to him today.
Like,
anyway.
listen to this. You have to know what the fuck you're talking about if you're naked because you got that confidence. Like,
right,
I'm not walking around naked.
You got that naked swag.
Right?
Yeah.
That naked swag. That's rad. Okay. So just as my servant Isaiah has gone stripped and barefoot for 3 fucking years.
Because barefoot's the important part.
Yeah.
Not the part that where his dick's hanging out.
Right. As a sign and portent against Egypt and Cush, so the king of Assyria will lead away, stripped and barefoot, the Egyptian captives and Cushite exiles, young and old, with buttocks bared to Egypt's shame.
So, okay. So, all right. So Assyria is going to lead away the Egyptians naked and barefoot and all that shit.
The king of Assyria is going to be naked and he's going to be like, come along, Egypt, let us go.
We know this, though, because God is talking through Isaiah and he made him be naked for 3 years. Just like those people are going to be when this happens.
Right.
That's how we know, because Isaiah's naked now.
Right.
This is going to happen to the Egyptians. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify
exactly
how we know what's happening here to the Egyptians.
That is exactly
I mean,
correct.
This is totally clear in my head, right? You? I mean, this makes total sense, right?
This is the best chapter of this book so far. Like, I understand what's happening right now.
Sadly, we understand what's happening right now. Yes.
I just needed a little bit of nudity.
Nudity fixes everything.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so God is still talking, okay?
Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Those who trusted in Cush and boasted in Egypt will be dismayed and put to shame.
Okay.
In that day, the people who live on this coast will say, see what has happened to those we relied on, those we fled to for help and deliverance from the king of Assyria. How then can we escape? The end.
Oh, that was abrupt. I don't even know what fucking coast he's talking about, though.
Does it even matter?
It's just that coast.
They're going to be like, whoa, those people are fucking naked. How the hell are they going to help us?
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's what they're saying, right?
I guess. Somebody fled. I'm assuming. I'm not really sure who fled to where. Okay. Was it the Ethiopians that fled to Egypt, or was it the Israelis that fled to Egypt, or somebody fled to Egypt?
Whoever the fuckers were that trusted in Cush, and whoever the fuckers were that boasted in Egypt.
Yeah,
they're going to be dismayed and put to shame. That's what it says.
And they're going to be naked.
Yes. In that day, the people who live on this coast, wherever this coast is, they're going to say, see what has happened to those fuckers that we relied on? We fled to all those fuckers for help and deliverance from Assyria, and they're all naked and shit.
Okay.
What even?
So God's still using Assyria as a tool now, and fighting against the Egyptians. At least at some point in the future, according to Isaiah, who's naked.
Yes. Well, the title of this chapter
Yeah.
in this little thing here, when we already talked several books ago that the titles that I'm reading are not attached to the chapters, like they were
Right, they were thrown in
assigned-
after the fact.
Yes.
Right.
Like they were not originally part of the document.
Sure.
So,
But
sorry.
sometimes they help clarify.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This chapter, with that caveat, is called Assyria to Conquer Egypt and Ethiopia.
Okay.
So
So
that's what's
Assyria
happening.
is still a tool, even though I thought we were talking about God fighting or like dismantling Assyria at some point earlier.
Right.
But now we're talking about them fighting against Egypt and Ethiopia.
It sounds to me like everybody gone kung fu fighting.
Right. Yeah. No, there's a lot of fucking war going on.
Yeah.
And or war that's going to be going on.
Yes.
And
lots of nakedness.
Lots of nakedness. Yeah.
We heard about some Asherah poles at one point.
They were going to tremble, remember?
Those Asherah poles were going to shake and quake.
Yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess everybody's, they're gonna be naked.
Doobie doobie doo 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 doo. I guess.
Right. All right. Well, anyway, that was Isaiah chapter 20.
It sure as fuck was.
And,
What a delightful departure from what we've been reading.
yeah. No, that was fun.
Great way to end the week.
Right. So, what will we be doing tomorrow then?
Okay, so tomorrow is Q&A Saturday, and we're gonna find out what the fuck we've been reading all week, except for this one today that we understood because there was nudity.
Which I'm very excited about because I honestly am a little bit lost.
Right.
But I did appreciate the nakedness today.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be doing that tomorrow on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Sunday, we'll be doing
Sacrilegious Book Club.
And I'll be getting the weekly wrap up together. And then we'll be back on Monday with
Isaiah chapter 21.
All right. We'll see you guys then.
Bye. Husband.
Wife.
Do you know what we're supposed to be doing right now that we were supposed to have done yesterday?
Well, we're not supposed to be doing it right now. We were supposed to do it yesterday.
Right.
But we are doing it right now.
That's why we're supposed to do it, because we didn't do it yesterday.
Well, I know it has to do with questions that we had with regard to everything we read last week.
Right.
Which would mean that we're on a Sunday doing what?
Q&A Saturday, but wife had a shellfish reaction that was bad and gave her hives and bumps and had to go to bed after taking Benadryl.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So we're doing our Q&A today.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be over Isaiah chapters
16 through 20.
Okay, you ready to do this?
Oh, it's a doozy. Yeah.
Let's do it. Hey, before we get into this, I have a quick announcement.
Oh.
And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew we have a new merchandise group that we're dealing with. And I have recently updated all of our products on our website. So go to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com. And all of the pricing is only $1 above our cost. So I'm trying to make this as price conscious for you as I can.
Right.
So hopefully that entices you to go over and take a look. And we have some really great stuff. Mugs, sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of crap.
That sounds enticing.
That's it. That's all I got. All right. So I'm going to let you head on into the episode here.
All right. So do you remember last week at all? It was so confusing.
Yes, I was very confused.
Like every chapter was like, I don't know what just happened.
I think I got that there was a lot of death happening.
Well,
people
there
dying.
There was prophecy of death.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Somebody was naked and
For 3 years.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of just did let's go back and actually understand what happened. Yeah. So let's start with chapter 16, as you do.
Right.
And that was a continuing concern about Moab.
Got it. Okay.
So the previous chapter was like, this is going to happen to Moab. And then, so now we're still talking about it.
It's still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It continues the proclamation concerning Moab. And we're talking about some cities that Isaiah is saying is going to have the hammer come down.
Right.
So Isaiah condemns Damascus and its allies for their pride and arrogance, and he prophesies their destruction.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think Damascus is part of the Assyrian regime,
so.
which, and I could be wrong about that, but like so this is part of what was confusing me is like which group he was killing at any given time.
Right. Well, the main cities, from what I could understand when I went back, or not cities, but nations, Assyrian, Israel, Ethiopian,
and Egypt.
Right.
I got that.
So, when I get into this a little bit later, but one of the things that I came across as a little note is that the Assyrians were the most feared during that time.
Right, because he refers to them as the tool of God more than once. And even after they talk about destroying some of them, that comes back later when he was talking about Ethiopia and Egypt, that he's still, or the Assyrians are still the tool of Egypt, or of right. God, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, during that time, they were the most abusive. All the little nations feared what Assyria would do to them.
Got it.
So that was the biggest, scariest one.
Got it.
Okay. So, send the lamb to the ruler of the land. That was something that was said.
Okay.
And we were like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Isaiah saying that Moab should resume bringing tribute to Jerusalem, thereby submitting themselves to God. So we're getting away from Assyria and we're just talking about Moab now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's saying that Moab is going to come back into the fold.
Okay.
And we saw that a lot in these early chapters, that these nations and cities that were not accepting God, the God of the Israelites, are going to come back into the fold.
Okay. Yep.
So that's what that meant.
Right.
So in 2 Kings chapter 3, the king of Moab, who once paid tribute to Israel, stopped doing so when King Ahab of Israel died. Okay. So Isaiah is counseling Moab to resume this payment of tribute.
They're like, hey, fuckers, just because he died, we still need shit.
Right.
You don't get to stop.
Not only that, but like, it's not just for us, it's to put you back in God's good graces.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm not here like to try to say, and that'll be great. I'm saying that was their supposed reasoning.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how much the leaders believed that, but that's the
I know how
story
much
they were
I would
selling.
believe it, and that would be zero.
Right. Exactly.
You fuckers just want my money.
So the next little bit is Isaiah's word to Judah as she observes Moab under judgment. Okay. So remember, at this time, Judah and Israel were at arms with each other.
Yeah,
they're separate nations. Right. So Isaiah is like talking to Judah and saying, now look what's happening with Moab. Be concerned.
Got it.
So he's saying, hide the outcasts. Now, out of compassion, Isaiah pleads with the rulers of Judah to hide the outcasts of Moab.
Okay.
So he's trying to convince them that it's in their best interest to shelter.
Was Moab being attacked by the Assyrians at this point? Is that partly why they're having to shelter outcasts, or what's going on?
They're being attacked by their own people, the ones who do not take God.
Okay.
So he's saying, Judah, please take in the
ones who still
believe our God
or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. His great sympathy for the Moabites is likely due to the connection between Moab and the royal house of David.
Sure.
So he's like
Ruth was a Moabite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like there's all kinds of connections to Moabites, and they weren't really far. I think they were part of one of the lines from Noah or something like that. Like that, or I don't remember exactly. It was like,
I think one of Moses's wives was a Moabite.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember.
There's definitely some connections biblically to the Moabites.
So Isaiah is like, we need to help the people that are the people of God.
Right.
You know?
Right.
He wanted Judah to be a place of refuge and protection for Moab under judgment. So he also knows Moab is about to get the hammer come down. He wants to protect them from that. Okay. He's like, God is about to judge this nation. If you can get out, go to Judah. Judah, please help.
Got it.
Okay. So the next little bit is a plea for refuge among Moab in the day of the righteous king. So in Isaiah 16:3, Judah was counseled to receive the outcasts of Moab. Okay. And now Moab is asked to receive the outcasts, and so that happens.
Got it.
This may be an end times prophecy of how Moab will be a place of refuge for Jews escaping the fury of the Antichrist after the abomination of desolation, as described in the book of Revelation.
So this is a Christian adaptation of the
yes
what's
and
happening.
no. Yes and no. I added this little bit just because I thought it was interesting.
Got it.
Okay. There are some who say that. Yes.
Right. I just think it's funny that, like, even as much as I didn't exactly understand what was going on in these chapters, it seemed pretty clear and straightforward to me that it was talking about things that would be near future, not long time.
Right.
Thousands of years down the road.
And that's a big argument among scholars.
Sure.
The apologists versus the actual academics.
No, but just the way it read, like the way things were said, did not indicate to me. And again, I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. I'm not studying this, but it doesn't indicate to me that this was something that was going to happen thousands of years later.
No, they all seemed like near prophecies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the pain in Moab at the judgment of God is the next bit. Okay. The Moabites took great pride in their vineyards, but God used the lords of the nations to break them down and to destroy everything Moab took pride in.
Gotcha.
So that's why he attacked their vineyards. We were like, who, why, what?
Yeah.
But that's why. That's what their nation was renowned for. So he's like, I'll take that from you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Punishment.
Yes, because fear the Lord.
Right.
Don't forget.
Yeah. We gotta do that.
Yeah. So then there was the bit about Isaiah's sorrow of heart for Moab, which we already talked about a little bit, why he would have those feelings.
Right.
And then the last little bit of chapter 16 was about, it said 3 years until judgment comes on Moab.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So still kind of near.
Right. We got a specific timeline here.
Right.
Or, specific-ish.
Now, there's a note from scholars that says, since we don't know the exact date of Isaiah's prophecy, it is impossible to independently verify the accuracy of the within 3 years prediction. So,
but did it happen anytime in this time frame?
I could not find a lot of information on that.
Right, but I kind of take issue with a historian saying we can't corroborate this because of this. But you could corroborate it within 100 years maybe and just be like, it could have been this. It might have been this.
It's an attempt to be sensitive to a controversial issue. And it's basically a way of saying, we probably didn't find any evidence of this, but we don't want to say that should never happened.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking issue with the way that was phrased.
Right.
Because I'm like, no, that you didn't find shit, and you're saying we didn't find shit because it wasn't there.
Right.
And it wasn't there because it didn't happen. But you don't want to say that, so you're being like real coy about it.
Right.
So.
And that's how I read it as well.
Yeah.
All right. So now we get into chapter 17. Okay. And chapter 17 is a proclamation against Syria and Israel. So we're still with Isaiah giving all of these prophecies about the various nations.
Yeah.
Okay. Isaiah prophesies about the destruction of Ephraim and Samaria, the two northern kingdoms of Israel, declaring that they will be defeated and exiled.
Sure. Okay.
So the chapter opens with the Lord speaking to Damascus and Ephraim. So Damascus was actually, it looks like, a part of
Assyria.
No.
Oh.
No. I think we're saying that Damascus was a part of Israel. I could be wrong. Oh, here we go. You were right. Damascus was one of the great cities of the ancient world, the capital of Syria.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know of Damascus, so I didn't think I was wrong there, but
no,
I just wanted to make
you were
sure.
right. I apologize. So he's talking to Damascus again and saying this shit's going to come down. Okay.
Yep.
Now, when he talks about the judgment on Israel, Ephraim was the dominant tribe of the northern kingdom of Israel.
Okay.
At this time, Israel and Syria were closely aligned against Judah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is why God's judgment against Israel via Ephraim came at the same time as his judgment against Syria. Damascus.
Got it.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So The next bit covers the humble response to the judgment of the Lord. In the midst of this severe judgment, some people will respond with humble respect for God, and that'll be great. Those people will be taken in, and that's awesome.
The way they were taken in, though, it looked like to me was through slavery, though.
Yes.
Which doesn't.
Yes.
It's not a very nice way to treat those who submit to you.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
they were definitely taking advantage of that situation in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Again, that's the way the apologists phrased it.
Yeah.
So
taking in. I love it.
They took them in.
They find some really creative ways to escape that whole slavery thing.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The next bit is about God's judgment will bring man's work to nothing, and the rush of the nations against Syria and Israel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bit where God's going to use other nations to bring judgment against Syria and Israel.
Okay.
He's going to use them as tools to, wipe them flat.
Right, but Syria was also Assyria was one of the ones that he was using as a tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
this is where it was getting really fucking confusing.
Well, he's using them all as tools against each other is basically what it comes down to.
It's a big ass fucking war. Lots of people died, and they're claiming God used people as tools.
Right.
That's the gist of it.
It's war in the Middle East.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Shit sucked.
Yes. Now, this doesn't mean that the nations that God uses to judge them will be exempt from their own judgment, which that's what you just said.
Yeah.
God will rebuke them and they will flee far away.
Sure.
Okay, so that's basically what you just said.
Yeah.
The tools are tools until they get smacked down by somebody else who's a tool.
Right.
Looks to me like everyone's a tool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was chapter 17. Everyone's a tool.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're heading into 18?
18. And this is about a prophecy concerning Ethiopia.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, I found this very interesting. Many biblical scholars say that this is one of the most obscure prophecies in the whole book of Isaiah.
I'm glad I'm not alone then.
But I remember saying that at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I had come across that note, so I'm reiterating this bit up front to say that's why this chapter was super confusing.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Isaiah describes the coming invasion of Ethiopia, which will bring judgment on Egypt, and declaring that Ethiopia will be humiliated and its people scattered, which he basically said humiliated and scattered to all of the nations that got smacked.
Sure. What's funny to me about this whole thing is that up until this point, the only mention I think of, I don't even know if Ethiopia was mentioned then, but I think they were back when Solomon was king, and the Egyptianess queen,
the princess came from there.
Yeah, she came from Ethiopia or something like that.
And that was only in one of our Q&A suppositions. I don't think it even said it in the Bible.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
It might have, but regardless, like, there hasn't been much talk of Ethiopia, and then all of a sudden we're worried about conquering them and getting conquered, and all this shit just pops out of nowhere with regard to how the Bible reads.
Right. Well, that's interesting you say that, because my very next note is a note about Ethiopia.
Got it. Okay.
Ethiopia was a major world power who ruled Egypt for parts of that history.
Yeah, so a lot of that gets. I think that's where Queen Sheba was part of that. They both were kind of one power at that point.
Yes.
Because they talked about Ethiopia and Egypt as kind of one.
Right.
When that was being discussed.
And that's because power went back and forth between the two.
Sure.
And Ethiopia was a chief rival to Assyria, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They
were
wanted
a dominant
Egypt,
culture.
They both wanted Egypt because Egypt was flourishing, and it was flourishing because of the location where it was settled along the Fertile Crescent and the Nile, and it was just great land to have.
Sure.
So everybody fought over it.
Yep.
Now, since Judah was caught in the middle of this conflict, it would make sense for Judah to ally with Ethiopia against Assyria.
Sure.
So that's why they get put in a lot of the same prophecies or announcements at the same time.
Right. But this brings me to, like, this isn't so much about God. It's just about world fucking events that are going on and how the Israelites are reacting to these things.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
That's what strikes me as a very important piece to take away, is that Ethiopia hasn't been a part of any biblical anything, really.
Right.
Until right now. All of a sudden they're this big chunk of this prophecy and this thing that's going on. But we haven't, before this, God was in a much smaller circle, and now we're expanding out.
Yes.
Because cultures are expanding, not because God's expanding.
Right. That's true. So, do you remember there was a reference to whirring wing?
Yes.
Whirring wings.
Yes.
Okay, so that refers to Ethiopia being an insect-infested land. The Nile Valley is famous for its many buzzing insects.
Got it.
So that's what that had to do with.
I heard once they had like a plague of locusts even.
We're going to get into that a little bit, yeah. So Isaiah is addressing Ethiopian ambassadors who have traveled to Jerusalem. Okay. That's who he was talking to.
Sure.
So then the Lord rejects the offer of help from the Ethiopians because he claims he's more than able to deal with the Assyrians himself.
Wait, God's literally he's negotiating with people that are trying to negotiate. He's like, hey, I see you guys negotiating that, but I got this. Leave those fuckers alone.
Yeah. Well, he's like, this is Isaiah speaking for God.
Right.
Okay. And Isaiah's like, God says he got this.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway, guys.
But was he naked at the time? That's the big
question. Not yet. That's the next chapter.
All right.
And we'll have some notes
about that. I guess if he's
that.
not naked, maybe you can still listen to the guy.
Well, like I said, we'll talk about that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Ethiopians came to Mount Zion, or they're going to come to Mount Zion.
Because it's prophecy.
According to Isaiah, he announces that there will be a day when, instead of Israelite messengers bringing news to Ethiopia of an alliance against the Assyrians, Ethiopians will come to us and worship God, us, Israel.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of us, Israel, sending messengers to them, they will be coming to us, Israel.
And I took issue with that because I don't recall any point in time where Egypt or Ethiopia was, Christian. That I'm aware of. Now, I am not, I'm not a major historian here.
Right.
Maybe I'm
wrong.
wrong.
We'll get into that a little bit. Okay. Because I do have a note about that.
All right.
Okay. So now we're in chapter 19. Okay.
Okay.
And this is about the oracle concerning Egypt.
Sure.
Okay. Isaiah prophesies about the future of Egypt. He describes how Egypt will be conquered and its people enslaved, but he also promises that a remnant of Egyptians will be saved and turn back to God.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, that was the both and.
Yes. Right.
You will be smacked by tools, but then, yay, everybody.
Also, wasn't he going to plague them first? Or after they turned back to God, he was going to plague them and then cure them just to show them how powerful he was or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the Lord strikes Egypt by giving them over to civil war and submission to a cruel master. So he's letting them get smacked down and enslaved and humiliated. And he's like, sorry for your luck, but you were naughty.
Right.
So Egypt was one of the great powers of the ancient world, and being situated immediately to the south of Israel, it was an empire that Israel constantly had to reckon with.
Sure.
Many times Egypt had been the enemy of Israel, and at times Egypt had been a refuge for Israel, and sometimes Egypt offered a tempting but ungodly alliance to Israel.
Sure.
So it's like their frenemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just always there.
They're always there. Sometimes they team up for a common cause, and sometimes, like, when it's safe to do so and all the other wars stop, then they're like, and now we can get back to our conflict.
Right.
So that is why God presents both a prophecy against and for Egypt.
It's kind of funny because they kind of still hold the same place in history right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Egypt is a frenemy of Israel at the moment too.
Right.
For now.
So.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, dealing with like trying to let refugees in from the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
Well, and all it would take is just for them to decide we're done with you and start fighting, and it would cause, a huge war in the region. So
right, exactly. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Isaiah prophesies a coming civil war in Egypt. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The Lord strikes Egypt by drying up the Nile, thus wrecking their economy.
Man.
Yeah, he's going to do that, okay?
Yeah.
So the Nile River was the key to Egypt's agriculture and economy, and for it to suffer a severe drought or lowering would have been a devastating effect on the lives of the Egyptians.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Like, even a child in 5th grade knows that.
Right.
Like, we all learned about the Fertile Crescent and the Nile, and if it goes away, that's bad.
And we need water, regardless of where you are in the world.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. So the Lord is first going to strike Egypt by sending them foolish counsel. Okay?
Goddamn foolish counsels.
I hate foolish counsel.
Fuckers.
As God strikes Egypt, not only does he give them cruel rulers, but he also gives these cruel rulers foolish counsel.
Okay.
So they're not only going to be mean, they're going to be mean and stupid.
Got it. So it's like Stephen Miller for Trump?
Stephen Miller for Trump. Trump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the princes of Zion Zion have become fools. Do you remember that?
What was it again? Say that one more time.
The princes of Zoan. I keep saying Zoan. The princes of Zion have become fools.
So they're talking about princes of Israel?
Oh, you know what? It is Zoan.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, what are we talking about here?
I couldn't read what I have here.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
The princes of here it's verse 13. Ready?
Yes.
The princes of Zoan have become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also deluded Egypt, those who are the mainstay of its tribes. Okay?
Sure.
That was verse 13.
Okay.
Princes here refers to a group of expert counselors of the Egyptian pharaoh. And they are the ones who are being
counseling and being whatever.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Despite their renowned wisdom, they are mocked as incapable. Okay.
Okay.
And that's what's happening there.
Got it.
So, moving on, when God strikes Egypt, there will be terror among the people.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, for thousands of years, the land of Judah lay submissively in the shadow of the great Egyptian empire. Isaiah prophesies a day when Judah will be mightier than Egypt, and the land of Judah will be a terror to Egypt. Okay?
That's interesting because I bet a lot of people do equate that to today.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in the last bit of that chapter, Egypt is going to turn to God. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Isaiah's prophecies in this chapter appear to point to two different seasons in Egyptians' future. In the nearer season, Egypt will experience sweeping judgment from God, leaving the nation divided and destitute. The second season is set further in the future, when God will return to earth and establish his kingdom. And in that era, the Egyptians will recognize God and respect his power to destroy them. Then the people of Egypt will begin to worship him as their own God.
Gotta have that fear before you start worshiping.
Yes.
It's always about fear.
Yes. Now the prophecy states that 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan. And we were really confused about that. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Some scholars suggest this means that those initial cities will be the beginning of a nationwide repentance. And all of Egypt will end up swearing allegiance to God in this time. The act of learning Israel's language, which Canaan refers to Israel.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And that's what I was confused about because they defeated the Canaanites originally to move.
So the language of Canaan was whatever Israel spoke.
Sure. Okay. All right.
So the act of learning Israel's language may indicate a humility to fully adapt to the ways of God's people.
Got it.
They're being forced to learn that language.
Yeah, yeah.
One of these 5 key cities will be called City of the Sun. Some translations have it City of Destruction, but that's because the Egyptian words, the Hebrew words for sun and destruction are exactly the same, except for like one of them has a little dot under it.
Okay.
So it makes it hard to decipher. So most scholars, like in some translations, it still says City of the Destruction.
Sure.
But most scholars agree that it should say City of the Sun, which is likely a reference to the Egyptian City of the Sun called Heliopolis.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sure.
Which was a center of worship to the Egyptian sun god Ra.
That makes sense.
That would be a big fucking deal if that city fell.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Now, this comes to what I told you. We have a note about that later.
Okay.
There did come to be a widespread knowledge of God in Egypt. In the days of Jesus, more than 1 million Jews lived in Egypt. In the early days of Christianity, there was a strong, vital church in Egypt for more than 600 years.
Huh. Okay.
So that did happen, apparently.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I didn't want to like poop on you, but I did want to say.
I appreciate that, and I guess if I really were to stop and think about it, the Islamic religion didn't actually even happen until think it was like 8 or 900 AD.
Mm-hmm.
So Islam hadn't even established as a religion at this point. So it makes some sense that Christianity might have taken some hold, I guess.
Right.
In between, it was like a transitional between their old gods and their new gods, basically.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So ending up that chapter, an amazing peace between three formerly hostile enemies will occur. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's when we were talking about that highway or byway or freeway. You remember?
Yes.
Okay. So God promises the day will come when there will be peace between Israel, Egypt, and Assyria.
Okay.
And that would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
There will be trade and travel between the three nations. That's what he meant by a highway from Egypt to Assyria.
Okay.
So that all three nations will prosper.
And that makes sense. Like, and especially given that we're talking about a time frame right now that is everybody's expanding their reach, right? Like, obviously there's things that are allowing people to trade more, reach out to further and further places, and interact with more and more different people.
And to fight over gods more.
And to fight over gods more, yeah. So it's taking hold in the Bible now, what we're reading, because society is moving forward.
Right.
And so it's causing different interactions, it's causing different problems. And it's not because of God, it's because clashes of societies and cultures.
Right. Because humanity evolves, changes, grows.
I mean, you know, so yeah.
Yes. So that was chapter 19. Okay.
Yep.
Are you a little more clear on all that now?
I am. That definitely helps out a lot. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I grasped some of this when we were reading it, but I wasn't sure. You know, like it was very muddled how they talked about it, so I wasn't sure how all this was breaking down.
Well, I get really confused when we're talking about cities versus nations versus kingdoms, and I forget who belongs to what at what point.
Sure.
And so taking these notes really helped me understand who the fuck we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, so now we're talking about chapter 20.
Yep.
Okay.
Nakedness.
Assyria to conquer Egypt and Ethiopia. Don't trust in Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay. So Isaiah describes the Assyrian invasion of Judah. He warns the people of Judah not to rely on Egypt for help.
Don't do it.
But to trust in God alone.
God is definitely not real.
And don't forget, like, this is... Yeah. Don't forget, though, that Judah and Israel are not at peace with each other when he's making this proclamation or whatever.
Sure.
So for him to be saying this to Judah, Judah's like, whomst the fuck do you think you are to tell us these things? Like, you go away now. Thank you.
Right. Was he naked yet, though?
No,
not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
Okay. So then we talk about the political setting for the sign. The political setting. So remember that chapter started in the year that Tartan came to Ashdod. And we were like, in the year that what now? Okay. It describes a time when the army of Assyria will conquer the Philistine city of Ashdod, which is an invasion that actually occurred in 711 BC.
Oh, okay. Well, there's some,
Yeah, there's some history for you.
Yeah, some history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, next, the Lord gives Isaiah a sign to act out. Here we come.
Okay.
Ready? Okay, now Isaiah wore an outer garment of sackcloth.
Right.
Clothes of mourning.
Yep.
God told him to remove his sackcloth and to take his sandals off. Okay. Now, Isaiah was not actually nude. He was not completely without clothing. Instead, he only wore the inner garment customary in that day, sort of like if you were to walk around only in your underwear or your pajamas. Okay.
All right.
So the message wasn't about actual nudity. It was about complete poverty and humiliation.
Okay.
And Isaiah dressed as the poorest and most destitute would dress.
Got it.
He was naked, but not nude, if that makes sense.
All right.
Which I'll allow it.
Yeah. It's not very clear when you're reading the Bible.
No, but
I guess you have to know context and how people dressed back then and things like that.
And what they mean by naked versus nude.
Right.
So if you were reading it just as it says, which is what a lot of Christians claim, then no, he was naked.
I have to say, though, it's a lot more fun to read it that way.
It is, because imagining ding-dongs swinging in the wind is funnier. It just is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to be a child. I just am.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that sign, him marching around like poor and destitute and in his undies and stuff,
Yeah.
that was a sign of the coming humiliation of Egypt.
Got it.
Basically, he was dressing ahead of time.
It was all part of the prophecy.
Right. Well, he was dressing ahead of time in the way that Egypt would be dressing.
Got it.
Okay?
Yep.
It was a message against Egypt because the king of Assyria would lead away the Egyptians as prisoners.
Now, I do have a problem with this because one of the things that they compared was that he's dressed like this, just like, and they say, just like the Assyrians or somebody, Egyptians, one of them was going to be led away showing their buttocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, they did compare it to nakedness at some level.
They did. Yeah. And I saw that in my notes too. And I was like,
So it might just be apologizing for the nakedness.
The nakedness, right.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong. What you're saying makes sense to me, but...
Or it could be similar to when they cut their shirts short so that their junk showed.
Right.
Their uncircumcised or circumcised penises for embarrassment.
Sure.
Like, it could have been something like that where they're kind of naked. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I don't always have faith in these interpretations that people give me either, because they don't always match up to what's being said. It sounds like they stretch a little bit to appease certain crowds.
Right.
You know?
So maybe they were naked, maybe they weren't. Maybe their undies had the buttholes cut out. I don't know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure, and we won't know because we can't go back to, those times and see it.
If I could get into a time machine that I'd be
Isaiah?
safe, I would go visit that day just to look and see, were you actually naked?
Like, dude, what's up? Naked or, undershirt?
Like,
what's going on?
Do you have undies on? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, why didn't Bill and Ted go back there?
They should have.
Right?
That would have been fun for them because then they could have seen Ding Dong or No.
Yeah.
Right?
And then they would have had to change the rating on the movie, though.
True.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have to show the Ding Dong.
That's true.
They
true.
could have just showed their eyes going, like, really super wide, going, whoa, dude! Right?
Yes.
All right, so... As the Assyrians took the Egyptians captive, they would humiliate them by stripping them and leading them away as prisoners, which would obviously be to the shame of Egypt.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So, I tend to think that if they're trying to embarrass them, that they would strip them down super naked.
Yeah.
So.
Which, when they compared Isaiah to that sounds like he's fucking naked.
Yeah.
So, and again, there's no way to know. People are going to say what they're going to say.
Right.
I like the idea that he's naked better, though. So I might just, in my mind, keep it that way because it's more fun.
I'm going to keep it that way because it makes more sense to me in spite of the very logical thing that was stated as far as, like, he was walking around in his undies, you guys.
But ultimately, I don't really think that it matters all that much either way you interpret it. It means the same thing either way.
Right.
One way he's naked, one way he's clothed for a PG-13 movie.
Right.
Either
way, he was walking around in a state of destitution and humiliation.
Right.
It's a matter of, but how destitute was he?
Right.
So, the final bit of that chapter is the sign's message to Judah.
Okay.
When God judges Ethiopia and Egypt, it will be evident how foolish it was for Judah to look to them for protection against Assyria.
Yeah, how dare you look for help outside of God?
Right?
God is all you need.
That was a big part of what this is about, and why God turned down the offer of assistance from the Ethiopians.
Right.
Because he's like, they don't need your help. They just need to rely on me.
If God's so fucking powerful, why did he need the help of the Assyrians to be a tool?
He didn't need to do that. He chose to do that.
Whatever. Fuck him. That's some fucking bullshit. They justify whatever the fuck they want to justify on any given day based on what happened in history. Sure. And they're like, yeah, that's what happened. This is because God did this, and that's because God did this. And that's why there's so many fucking contradictions. Yeah. Because they can't even keep their own information straight because it's not true. Right. It's just bullshit. They're trying to pawn off on some God character. Right. Whatever. So anyway, that looks like all we have for today.
That was my Q&A over chapters 16 through 20.
Awesome.
I hope everybody feels a little bit better and that we cleared up some of the questions that we all had.
I think I learned some stuff today.
I learned some stuff
appreciate.
as well.
It's not that I didn't have some of this information in my head, but it straightened it out in my head.
I had none of this information in my head, so I appreciated all of the notes that I took. Honestly, like I was so lost. I was like, somebody's a tool, but I don't remember who and why.
Right.
And also fear God.
Definitely. All right. Well, I mean, don't do that.
No, don't.
Sorry, I don't know why I said definitely, but don't fear God. That's dumb.
No. I mean, if you're one of these people
PSA.
in this book, yes, fear God. But if you're one of us who is outside of the book canon,
right?
Yeah, no, don't,
Okay.
just don't.
All right. So we will. Are we doing our book club still? Do you have a book club this week?
I need to do some more prep work for it, but it should be okay.
We'll probably do a book club today. We'll see how that goes. If you catch this before 3 p.m. on Sunday, which we'll be releasing here shortly, maybe, we are doing a live on Discord today. So if you haven't joined us on Discord before, join us over there. If you haven't joined us on Discord before, but you see this or you hear this after that time frame, join us on Discord anyway and catch the next live that's on there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And we do one every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Correct. That being said, we may be back later with a book club. We will definitely have a wrap up out at some point today. And then we'll be back on Monday with
Isaiah chapter 21.
We'll see you guys then.
Bye. Husband.
Wife.
Do you know what today is?
Well, today is Sunday, which means that we're doing
Sacrilegious Book Club.
That's right. And what are we covering in the Sacrilegious Book Club today?
Well, we are still, seems like forever, reading a treasury of Jewish folklore, stories, traditions, legends, humor, wisdom, and folk songs of the Jewish people, edited by Nathan Osubel. And part 1 was Jewish Salt. Part 2 was Heroes. We are in Part 3, The Human Comedy. And we covered Chapter 1, Droll Characters. Chapter 2, Rogues and Sinners. Chapter 3, Traditional Types. And that's where we are today. And we are going to be reading about tailors, scholars, scripture teachers, merchants, shopkeepers, peddlers, doctors, patients, waiters, restaurants, and matchmakers.
That's a lot of people.
Not a lot to go with it, though.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, sounds exciting. Let's go do this.
Okie dokie. All right, so we are going to start off with tailors.
Okay. Yep.
And the first story I'm going to read is on page 401, and it is called Napoleon and the Jewish Tailor. Okay?
Okay.
All right. While the Emperor Napoleon was retreating from Russia, he passed through a Jewish village as he fled before the enemy. Seeing that all avenues of escape were cut off, he dashed into a house in which lived a Jewish tailor. In a tremulous voice, he pleaded with the tailor, "Hide me quick! If the Russians find me, they'll kill me!" Although the little tailor had no idea who the stranger was, he was moved by pity for a fellow creature. So he said to the emperor, "Get under the feather bed and lie still." Napoleon got into bed, and the tailor piled on him one feather bed and another, and then still another. It wasn't long before the door burst open, and 2 Russian soldiers with spears in their hands rushed in.
Oh, man.
"Is there anybody hiding here?" they asked. "Who would be foolish enough to hide in my house?" the tailor asked. The soldiers pried into every corner but found no one. As they were leaving, just to make sure, they stuck their spears several times through the feather beds.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
When the door had finally closed on them, Napoleon crawled out from under the pile of feather beds. He looked deathly pale and was covered with perspiration. Then turning to the tailor, he said, "I want you to know, my dear noble friend, that I am the Emperor Napoleon. Because you have saved me from certain death, you can ask me 3 favors. No matter what they are, I will grant them to you."
That sounds dangerous.
Also, I cannot do a French accent, okay? So I'm just trying to,
do your best.
Not do my best as a French accent so much as just, give the flavor of, he is Napoleon.
Got it,
okay?
yeah.
Okay. Which I thought this was timely since the movie Napoleon just came out.
Yeah. Sure.
Starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
Looks really good to me,
Looks,
but
yeah.
I heard
I'll
some mixed reviews about it, so I don't
okay.
know. But I still want to see it.
Sure.
Okay. The little tailor thought for a while because he was just offered 3 wishes.
Yeah.
Then he said, "Your Majesty, the roof of my house has been leaking for the past 2 years, but I've never had any money to fix it. Would you be so kind and have it fixed for me? Blockhead! Exclaimed Napoleon impatiently. Is that the greatest favor you can ask of an emperor? But never mind, I'll see that your roof is fixed. Now you can make your second wish, but make sure this time that it's something substantial.
Why would you do that?
Because these wishes that you are making are petty. They are beneath me.
But if I want it, then I want it.
But you should want something bigger that's worthy of. Because Napoleon's going to walk away from this with a story, and he's going to say, this guy saved my life, and I fixed his roof.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? He wants to be able to say, like, and I bought him a kingdom.
Got
or
it.
some shit like that.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
The little tailor scratched his head. He was really perplexed. What on earth could he ask for? His face suddenly brightened. Some months ago, Your Majesty, he began, another tailor opened his shop across the way, and he is ruining my business. Would it be too much trouble for you to ask him to find himself another location? What a fool! Cried Napoleon disdainfully. Very well, my friend, I'll ask your competitor to go to the devil. Now, you must try and think of something that's really important. Keep in mind, though, that this is positively the last favor I'll grant for you.
Oh, okay.
The tailor knitted his brows and thought. Suddenly, an impish look came into his eyes. Begging your pardon, Emperor, he asked with burning curiosity, but I'd very much like to know how you felt while the Russian soldiers were poking their spears through the feather beds. That's such a weird...
What?
Right? Like,
yeah.
Weird, right?
Right.
Imbecile! Cried Napoleon, beside himself with rage. How dare you put such a question to an emperor? For your insolence, I'll have you shot at dawn.
What the fuck?
So said, so done. He called in 3 French soldiers who placed the little tailor in irons and led him away to the guardhouse.
What an asshole.
That night the tailor could not sleep. He wept and quaked and wept. Then he recited the prayer of confession and made his peace with God. Promptly at dawn, he was taken out of his cell and tied to a tree. A firing squad drew up opposite him and aimed their muskets at him. Nearby stood an officer with watch in hand, waiting to give the signal to fire. He lifted his hand and began to count. 1, 2, 3. But before he could even complete the word, the emperor's aide-de-camp dashed up on horseback, crying, "Stop! Don't shoot!" Then he went up to the tailor and said to him, "His Majesty the Emperor gives you his gracious pardon. He has also asked me to give you this little note." The tailor heaved a deep sigh and began to read. "You wanted to know," wrote Napoleon, "how I felt under the feather bed in your house. Now you know." I thought it was pretty great, right?
That's actually pretty awesome. Yeah.
All right, so now we are going to read about scholars and scripture teachers.
Okay. Yep.
And on page 403, we have a story called Etiquette Among Scholars.
All right.
A rich man once invited 2 hungry scholars to tea. They came, sat down at the table, and began to discuss Torah. For what other pastime do Jews have? As they got themselves well tangled up in Talmudical argument, the hostess entered and placed before them glasses of tea with lemon. Then she brought in a platter with 2 cookies. It so happened that one cookie was somewhat larger than the other. Understanding etiquette very well, neither of the 2 scholars wished to be the first to reach for the cookies.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it.
One said gallantly, "You first, Reb Yankel." No, help yourself first, Reb Isaac," urged Reb Yankel with equal delicacy. Finally, after much aimless fainting, Reb Yankel suddenly reached out and took a cookie. But he chose the larger one.
Oh, how dare he?
Reb Isaac looked dumbfounded. "How is it, Reb Yankel," he chided him in an injured tone of voice, "that a scholar like you should be so utterly without table manners? How could anybody be so rude as to grab for himself the bigger portion and leave the smaller one to another? Like, what?"
Whatever. You both fought over who was getting the larger cookie, just in a different way.
And what would you have done in my place?" asked Reb Yankel. "What do you mean, what would I have done? As a man who knows etiquette, I most certainly would have taken the smaller cookie." "Well, that's what you got," answered Reb Yankel sweetly. "So what are you getting excited about?" All right. Next we have on page 404, potatoes.
Potatoes. Okay.
A poor Talmud student was making the rounds from one householder to another, Each one, out of the goodness of his heart and as an act of piety, gave him food and lodging for several days. In one of these homes, however, he was treated with ill grace and in a perfunctory manner. 3 times daily they gave him only one dish to eat, potatoes. One day when he saw the platter of potatoes being placed before him, he shuddered and asked his host, "Please tell me, what is the benediction that is said over potatoes?" "What a question to ask!" exclaimed his host. "You're a Talmud student, aren't you? Why, even the most ignorant man knows that you say, 'Blessed are the fruits of the earth,' over everything which comes out of the soil."
That's not a fruit.
"That may be so," retorted the Talmud student, "but what should I say when the potatoes are coming out of my ears?"
That was dumb.
It was. Okay, next we have merchants, shopkeepers, and peddlers.
Peddlers. Yeah.
But guess what? I don't think I liked any of those stories. No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'll read this one. It's a little short blurb called Nicola Piccola.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
An old Jewish woman on Essex Street stuck her hand into the brine of a pickle barrel and fished out a large pickle. "How much is this pickle?" she asked. "A nickel," answered the dealer.
A nickel for the pickle?
A nickel for the pickle.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
"A nickel is too much," she said, and put the pickle back into the barrel. She fished in the barrel again and came up with a little pickle.
Mm-hmm.
"How much is this little piccola?" she asked in a tender voice. "That piccola," answered the shopkeeper just as tenderly, "only a niccola." That was the funniest of the bunch.
Yeah,
that's why I was like, I'm not reading any of those.
Right.
Okay, next is doctors and patients.
Okay.
Guess what?
What?
I didn't like any of those either.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Waiters in restaurants. No, I didn't like any of those either.
Man, you're just not down with the common people here.
I'm not. I'm just not. Okay, matchmakers. I think I liked 1 or 2 of those. Okay, on page 415, we've got the art of exaggeration.
Okay.
Don't forget, the ones that I read, even if they're silly, they're the best of the lot.
Got it.
Okay, keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Once there was a marriage broker who felt he was getting old and unable to get around anymore as much as he used to. He therefore hired a young assistant who knew nothing about the business. He had to start from scratch with him. "No, young man," said the marriage broker, "that the most important thing in matchmaking is exaggeration. You must lay it on thick." "I fully understand," answered the assistant brightly. One day the master took his assistant along on a matchmaking visit to a rich man who had only a son. Who had an only son.
Got it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
"Remember what I told you," the marriage broker warned his assistant. "Above all things, be enthusiastic and don't hesitate to lay it on."
Mm-hmm.
When they came to the rich man, the broker began. "I've just the right girl for your son. She comes of a good family." "Good family!" exclaimed his assistant rapturously. "Why, they're descendants of the Vilna Goan." "And they are rich, too," the broker went on. "What do you mean, rich?" interrupted his assistant. "They're millionaires." "As for the girl, she's pretty as a doll," gushed the broker. "A doll!" snorted his assistant with scorn. "Why, she's a raving beauty." At this, the broker threw a dubious look at his assistant. "To tell the truth," he faltered, "she has just a trifling little handicap. She has a tiny wart on her back." "What do you mean, a tiny wart?" enthused his assistant. "Why, she has a regular hump." Yeah. And that is that.
That was all right.
That was all
all right.
Those were chuckle-worthy, I guess.
Chuckle-worthy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we've had better chapters than others.
Yep. It's
sometimes
true.
You win, sometimes you lose here.
It's true.
It's just a bunch of little stories, and they're fun.
They're fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was what we had today. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And next time, are we still in the same chapter, or where are we at?
No, next time we'll be getting into chapter 4, which are humorous anecdotes and jests.
That sounds fun.
It could be, but sometimes when they're like, "These are funny," they're not. You know what I mean?
But when it says humorous, I'm gonna go with hope here.
You can
I'm gonna
go with hope.
Positive thinking, and
you can go with hope, but I'm over halfway through this book, and every time they've said, "I promise these are funny," they're not.
I see.
So good luck with that. I'm
All
sure I'll find a few humorous little gems.
Okay, all right. Well, that being said, we'll see you guys back in a couple of weeks for the next Jewish folklore.
Mm-hmm.
And we will have the weekly wrap out here in just a little bit. And then tomorrow we will be back with
Isaiah chapter 21.
That's right. We'll see you then.
Okie dokie, bye.
Hey, wife, I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep, we have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegious discourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.